On this episode of Three Food Memories, I'm joined by someone with a rich, evolving story. The phrase, if you know, has never applied more to a guest on this show. From fine arts and fashion to adult action, both in front of and behind the camera, his works are founded in aesthetics and style. Global fame arrived under his moniker, Adam Russo, a porn star in the classical sense of the term. Today, he's still classical and still creating, stepping into the role of spiritual warrior and mentor. And yes, he reads tarot cards too. Joining me from his home in LA, Adam Keith, or Keith Adam Gaspari. Welcome to Three Food Memories.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. It's wonderful to be on.
Now, porn star to tarot card reader and healer. It's a big career change. It's one of those turning left moments.
Yes.
What happened?
Okay, the whole thing where that moment happened was a dark night of the soul brought on by a boyfriend, a partner at the time, who kind of left. And it's weird because I've had many different other partnerships, but this one was one that was very difficult, and that sent me through a whole dark night of the soul. I mean, I had a relationship of 13 years, and this was not even anywhere near that.
How long were you with this fellow?
This one, well, at the time, about 2.5 years, about 2 years. And then when he moved out, we were still not quite separated. I was still trying to make this work. 8 months down the road, after he moved out, he was like, "Oh, you feel like home, blah, blah, blah." And he moved back in because he couldn't afford his apartment. So I was being used again for another 2 years. So almost 5 years. And then he found somebody to replace me. And I'm gonna put that in quotations. So yeah, and that's kind of where the catalyst was. Before he came back, I wasn't quite finished doing my healing process, and it was a mess, man. Especially the second time he broke up with me, I was like complete narcissism 101, the flying monkeys, the whole bit. And I didn't know anything about narcissism at the time. I had no idea. And suddenly the weird thing is I never even Googled it, and suddenly my computer was putting stuff up on narcissism. It was the weirdest thing. Well, that's, again, I read tarot, so it's very spiritually based. So I know it was the universe sending me this stuff. And I was
it was bombarding you by the sound of it.
It was. And the funny thing is, before he broke up with me, I kept, because I would listen to readings occasionally from other people, and I was reading myself, and I kept seeing this reading, a third party is trying to take your partner. And it kept popping up on the feed, and I kept, no, that's BS, that's BS. And wouldn't you know, it happened. So I was it was like kind of a warning.
So the dark night of the soul you speak of, explain this sensation, this feeling for people who've not had it yet.
Yeah, this is a rough thing, and especially for other light workers, doing the kind of work I do, whatnot. And you could be a light worker, be a doctor or a nurse or things, or yoga instructor. It's that doesn't really matter. You don't necessarily have to read tarot or any of that sort. But the dark night of the soul is really where the universe is breaking everything that you know down. Like nothing, you start questioning everything. When he left for 3 months, I was like a living zombie. I could not sleep more than 3 hours. And I tried wine, I tried pot, I tried Percocet, I tried all three one night and still woke up within 3 hours. And it was like a living zombie for a while. And instead of going, to drugs and other things, I started meditating more and really delving into it. And that's where the spirituality was starting to hit. And it was, the universe starts talking to you in certain ways that you start seeing and experiencing things that, you can't quite explain. But once you start seeing so many of them, you can't deny it either. And
they're not coincidence, Adam, are they?
No, everything is synchronicity. And the funny thing is, when you talk to other light workers, other people that have been through this, it's interesting to hear their stories because they're very similar, but you can, their own, they have their own thing. Some people see other things than others, but they don't necessarily talk about it to most people because it sounds a little kooky. And I get it, because it sounds like, what the hell am I experiencing? But the thing is, you're going through this transition and you're having to break down your ego. You're having to breaking down everything. And it's like a rebuilding of yourself. So when you talk about the dark night of the soul, it's like taking a wrecking ball and smashing everything. Just
being
boom.
a bit Miley.
Yeah, it seems very Miley, yes. Smashing it all apart to rebuild it.
But there's got to be some sort of courage. I mean, here you don't have anything tangible. There's nothing you can reference. It's really feeling and intuition here. So you speak of two concepts here. You speak of Night of the Dark Soul. This is when it's a rebuilding of of a belief system, of something that you have built yourself, and all of a sudden that's just gone. There is nothing. It's darkness, right?
Yeah.
But then you speak of light working. So what is this light working, like a construction company that comes in and fixes what Miley's fucked up? Help me out here, Adam.
I wish it were that simple. That something just comes in and like replaces it automatically. This process is painful. It is extremely painful, and it's not for the weak. And I know a lot of people that have been through it. It is something that's very challenging. And a lot of people wind up going to drugs and whatnot because they can't deal with the destruction that's happening in their life, because all of your belief systems are being deconstructed. How you know yourself is being deconstructed. And so what happens if you decide to go into more of the light work of this, to instead of going into drugs or alcohol and other things, you start going into meditations. Maybe you do sound baths, maybe you go, do yoga, whatever it may be that works for you. Everyone's going to have their own particular path. And so you start rebuilding, through learning. And the funny thing is, the universe provides that. When you're ready to receive the messages, they come from different places. You may run into somebody that's doing a yoga section that you just never met, and suddenly they're there at you and they're like inviting you to a yoga studio. Or you're online and you're seeing something about, something about the cosmos, or, light work, something that, you gravitate to and you understand. You're like, aha. And it's that kind of thing. It's synchronicities, because everything in the world is synchronicities. It's not coincidence. There's no such thing. And even though we may not know what those synchronicities are at the time, they may not even be for you. Like, say I met you and I don't know what it was for me, but you had to hear something that I had to say. So there was a synchronicity there. It didn't really do anything for me. It was helping. It was something I had to pass on to you. And so that's what happens. So it's not like this manual, here, you will do this and this and this, and this is how you're going to build it. It doesn't work that way. And again, every person is different. So everything comes in when that person needs it, like those new belief systems, new people that will help you up, they're there to help brace you. Because, again, when I talked about the flying monkeys, there were a lot of people I thought were my friends, nowhere to be seen. I was the bad guy. Yeah. And I was the one building a website for tarot, and this one said he had to go and he wanted to go do circuit parties and drugs. And I'm going, am I missing something here?
You've moved on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've moved on. So the cards, so we've gone from light working, Night of the Black Soul, Dark Soul.
Mm-hmm.
The cards. Where do the cards come into this? I mean, the cards are a physical, and if anyone has seen you, you post every day a reading.
Yeah.
And if anyone has seen you with them, you have this really strong relationship with them, and you pick them up and put them down. It's like Texas Hold'em, baby. You're really... So explain the cards in this new, in life for you post-porn.
The cards... It was funny because I always had my readings done by somebody else. I'd have them maybe done twice a year, my birthday and around the New Year, because my birthday's in August. So, about half and half. And it was something that I always loved. I always loved mysticism. If there's an ancient ruin, I'm there for it. I'm a little bit of a geek. So the spiritual is always there. I grew up Roman Catholic, no longer part of that religion, but there are nuggets of truth in all religions. So anyway, the cards, which is very interesting, unlike mediumship, which I can also do, or psychic abilities, because I can also talk to my spirit guides and get answers without the cards. But this was also a process. So when in the beginning, when I was going through the Dark Night of Soul, I had another reader who I was listening to all the time, and he became my mentor, basically, and my therapist, and helped me out of this dark spot. So I would say about 98% of the things that he was saying came true. Because remember, there is a thing about free will, and people have the ability to change things. So I started listening to him, and I started listening to other readers online, learning about the cards, learning how they combined, etc. And then I got this kind of like sign from my guides to say, okay, we want you to start reading the cards.
Hang on, these are not physical guides. These are
spiritual guides.
Spiritual guides.
Spiritual guides, yes. So, and during my meditations, I was also getting downloads and things from them as well. So this was now they wanted me to buy a deck of cards and do it. And so I went to the tarot shop and I bought a deck of cards. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. So if you watch back on the YouTube, like if you go way back to my other readings, first readings, I was still kind of learning how to really react with the cards and where they were sitting and everything else. But how I learned was listening to other readers. And so when I was ready to pick up that deck, I didn't have to go through the manual. I pretty much knew what these cards meant. As I continued to do the readings, that ability got stronger and stronger. Like anything else you do, you start honing in. And it's very interesting because every card, and I also started reading reversals. So it becomes the clarity of the cards. Every card has multiple meanings. And then, of course, it's where they're positioned, how they are interacting with each other, what my spirit guides are coming in, because you'll sort of get downloads or images coming in as well when you're reading for somebody. So now at this point, when you see me go through the cards, and I'm very much like, it's like just like reading a book to me. It's like, oh,
Do you think you're going to have a life in this light work without the cards?
Yeah, it's already kind of there actually, because I have a lot of people that ask me questions. And if it's a specific questions, like the reason for the cards when I do a reading for somebody, because sometimes they come to a general reading and they just want to see what's coming up. So they don't have anything particularly to say, hey, how's my sex life? Or, it's kind of like, okay, where are we starting here? So when I do the reading, it's also a physical thing. You can see the cards. You can see this is what this card means. You know what I mean? You have that ability in front of them. If I'm just like doing psychic medium, you're just relying on whatever I say. You know what I mean? So at least you have something to look at, something that you can sort of say, oh yeah, that's the death card. We know what that kind of means, as opposed to, just like, oh, I'm just out of my mind. But it helps people to sort of understand that. It makes them feel a little bit more comfortable when they can see something in the physical world. Like I literally sat down, this was quite a few years ago. I had a friend who came in and I was going to do a reading for him, and we literally talked for like an hour, and I basically answered all of his questions. And he said, oh, okay, let's do the reading now. And I was like, I just basically did your reading, and everything I did in the cards was the same thing I just already said.
So it was there. So you're moving into that space.
You're seeing the cards. So
I mean, you are animated enough not to need the cards. Speaking of animation, let's talk about. Do you miss making porn?
Well, I still do it. I just do my OnlyFans, my Just for Fans, and I just put out a video a week. So it does, it helps pay the bills and that. So I never really give it up. I don't do studio stuff anymore. I've been asked. In fact, actually, the funny thing is I was just asked today to do men.com in Montreal. And I'm like, not really.
And why is that, Adam? Is what shifted for you to kind of step away from studio?
Once I can fully get away from all the porn in general, would be great, because it's been great. It helped me. I've been doing it for over 15 years. It led me into a lot of things to where I'm at now, but, and even the spirituality. That was also part of this, the partner, the ex-partner, et cetera. And then of course now having the fan base, which also translates into the spirituality, because a lot of people that were watching me do the adult work are now watching my spiritual stuff as well. So it's kind of a built-in, fan base for it. I just, with doing the studio porn, of course, it's just a lot of work for like really no money as far as I'm concerned. Like time is money. I don't need to be seen in that capacity. I've already done so many of those videos. People know who I am. So, and I always tell people that are starting this, I said, listen, if you're going to get your name out there a bit, then work for a studio because they're going to help promote you and you'll make some money. You'll make a little bit of money with it, but it's for the promotion. And that's what I did when I was doing this full time. I was traveling all around the world and I was calling up different studios and I was working. The OnlyFans and that didn't exist. So I was doing it as PR for myself. And I literally say I worked my ass and my dick off. So there you go.
Like Mariah Carey.
Exactly. There you go.
Mariah Carey recently said, when asked if she would go to space, would she go to space like Katy Perry, and Mariah Carey said, I've done enough already.
Right.
So, before we move into your 3 food memories, is it a coincidence that all 3 of them center around the evening meal with significant loved ones?
That's funny. It kind of does. I guess I have my own breakfast ritual, but I never really thought about it. All 3 I gave you were the evening. Oh, yeah. That's funny.
Is there something in the ritual of dinner that brings you comfort?
I think it's just the food in general, but dinner was more of a focus growing up than breakfast or lunch, because breakfast, you're like having to go to school. You're all trying to get your stuff done, when you're a kid. And then lunch is like, if you're at school, you're eating from a lunch basket or whatever, lunchbox. And then even as an adult, like you're going to work and you're having a quick lunch in between everything. So it's not like, lunch is just trying to get some food in your stomach. So dinner is very different. Dinner, especially like when I lived in New York, you go out to a restaurant, we're having time to ourselves. We're just, going to eat some beautiful food. We're going to have some drinks and it's going to be lovely. It's a time to sort of relax, really get to talk, to know whoever you're talking, who you're with, whether it be a partner or friends. So it's much more important, I think, for the dinner meal.
You spoke about a breakfast ritual. What's involved?
Sounds so interesting.
I know. Candles?
Really not that interesting, but
tiki torches.
It's really not that interesting. It's kind of I wake up and I basically. Well, first I do make sure all my videos are, for my tower up. And then I go into I make myself a soft boiled egg. So I put that on, get a little half bagel with cream cheese. So putting all this out, doing that. And then also getting some fruit ready if it's already cut or if it's cut something, and my cold coffee. So there's 4 different things I'm working on. So it's kind of a ritual that I'm waking up. I'm doing all these different separate things to have this, meal. It's not like just throwing a bowl of cereal and some milk in a bowl. So it is like, okay, so now I have my egg, I have my bagel with cream cheese, I have my fruit, I have my coffee. I'm like boom, 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 boom. And that's kind of the usual breakfast I have.
There's a beauty in that though. It's kind of almost it's meditation, it's yoga, isn't it? It's that movement, it's preparing you for the day. But I'm ready to start talking about your first food memory, which is Christmas dinner at Grandma's house. She made this incredible soup crepes called scripelle.
Yes.
Tell us about...
when we were younger, we also just called them the Italian crepe soup, but we were young, we were kids. They were, oh my God, this is one thing that I always looked forward to, especially around Christmas and whatnot, because they would make these very thin crepes and then they would roll them up. And of course there was always grated cheese and that in them. And they were never put in the soup until later when we were ready to be served. So they have this big pile of these beautiful crepes, which are about 7 inches long, all rolled up. And they would have the soup bowls out and they would lay 4, however many, you wanted. And then the broth, the chicken broth would go on top, which was again, all homemade. And they would just pour that on. And of course the crepes would start soaking it up. And then the piece de resistance, we got to have more Parmesan cheese on top of everything. And it was just the texture of the crepe with the soup and the saltiness of the Parmesan. It was just a really beautiful combination.
And she made this at Christmas?
Oh my God, they all spent time. My mom did it, my grandmother did it, and it's a lot of work especially if doing like a holiday where we have big families. My father is one of 5. I'm now one of 7. Like I'm the oldest of 7, but they were big families, and then we have cousins and everything else. So if you were doing this, you had to make a lot of crepes, and then people would come over. Your cousins and aunts would come over after the main dinner, and more food would come out and more drinks, and so it was nonstop eating and drinking the entire time.
So who is Italian in the family? Both sides?
Both sides.
And
yeah.
whereabouts in Italy are they from?
Abruzzi, Abruzzo, that was, which makes, again, the crepe soup is kind of right from that region. And, so I never visited relatives there. I know they're there. My grandmother and grandfather, when they're alive, visited. My brother actually went over and visited them. I have been to Italy, but I didn't see them. I was like in, Venice. I was in Milan, Bolognese, and did I said that wrong? Where else was I? Trying to think. Oh, Portofino.
Port-
Portofino.
And so
yeah.
what do you take from your Italian heritage? Were your parents born in the States?
Bologna is what I wanted to say, not Bologna.
Yeah.
Bologna. Sorry. Okay. What I take from the Italian heritage?
Your Italian. Were your folks born in the States?
My parents, yes, they were born, and so were my grandparents. Now, my great-grandparents were not. That's how I have my Italian citizenship, because my father had to work on that. So they came over here on the boat through Staten Island, the whole bit. And, they were farmers, but during the Depression, they lost their farm. And, when I was growing up, my grandparents always had, their own businesses, delis, restaurants, tiling, whatever it was. They had, these were working people. These were definitely working people working with their hands. And, they did very well for themselves. My father even eventually had his own, deli and butcher shop, and that I worked at. I was there slicing meat at 8 years old. So, yeah, a little crazy.
And so
good.
what do you hold on? What do you hold on from this heritage?
I think there's so many different things. It's the love of food and family. It really is that sort of connectivity, whether the family is blood family or not. Because, even with good friends, you can have that, that connection. A bit about tradition as well. And the funny thing is, even though my grandfather was very much a Roman Catholic and got me in to become a, altar boy, there were things that he did. I know it's just like, they would pray every, meal, sort of give thanks for their food. And at the time when I was young, that I was, whatever about this and that. And, they all tended their gardens. So my grandfather taught me gardening and to appreciate the earth and where the food was coming from. So you were growing it. So you understood where it was coming from. And then again, the same thing with my father, knowing where the food was coming from, the meats and everything else. And the appreciation of the earth, of, that and spirit giving us all this, why the thanks and is given. And now in my own spirituality, because of my spirituality, I also give thanks to the universe all the time. But when you're a kid, you just, I don't know, you just don't realize it until later. You look back on it and all the things they really did teach you. Do you think I really do feel dear?
Do you think all that foundation work, that Roman Catholicism has prepared you for this next stage of your life as a spiritual warrior?
I guess it did help a bit. I mean, with religions in general, there are sort of opium for the masses. There are control mechanisms like most things are. And, but there's always nuggets of truth in all of that. When I was growing up, I was in Catholic school and then I was in public school and whatnot. But I remember asking the nun, about the Trinity, and it didn't make sense to me. And she's like, basically, she didn't want to explain it. She just wanted to say, you believe it. Like, that was it. So that was also one of the things. It was like, okay, you're not giving me an answer here. You're just telling me to believe something. I was the rebel child, I guess.
So what does the Holy Spirit mean to you now, the Holy Trinity? Now is it 50?
Well, I still don't believe in the separation of that in a bit. This whole Trinity of it, and maybe what they're kind of hearkening to is, because this is how I feel about spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. I call it the universe as well, because everything is the universe. You, me, this table, the toilet, the seat, everything is the universe. It's all part of it. And so when I'm telling the people I'm working with, it's so you don't need a synagogue, a chapel, or anything to go pray to the universe or talk to the universe. You can sit in your toilet, be right there, because that's the universe too. And the universe doesn't care. It's like, it's fine. The universe cares about your intentions. So when they're trying to divide this up, I think they're trying to divide it in sort of that the spirit's also in us as well. And they're trying to triangulate it, which is very funny because 3 is a very important number. 3 is a master number. And it's one of my numbers too. 333 is my number. And so it kind of triangulates for them in a weird kind of way, body, soul, spirit, I guess. And I kind of understand that to a bit, but I think that's overcomplicating it. I really do. I think it's just, why are you trying to overcomplicate this? It's just knowing that you are part of spirit. Everything is spirit. All of this is part of the universe, because it's all just energy.
Which is what your father and your grandfathers were doing in the garden. They were there in the earth. That's what they were working, and they were grabbing from the earth to feed themselves, to nurture themselves, which is a wonderful connection. Are there any other dishes that you cook that you remember from your grandmother's repertoire or your family repertoire?
That I cook, her biscotti. Absolutely. I loved the biscotti recipe. With the anise and that. I used to make that quite often.
With the
anise.
Anise.
Yes, anise. And it's just so wonderful. It's like one of my favorites I used to make all the time, especially if I had friends or family visiting, staying over. I'd make the dough beforehand, and in the morning, cook it all up, and that's just beautiful and aromatic and wonderful.
So you are a man of ritual. Let's just get this straight.
Yes, I am. Yes,
aren't you?
Yes.
Like that, and that helps maintain, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. I do. When you're talking about it, I think that younger, it was about sort of a sense of control. I have a lot of Virgo in my chart, even though I'm a Leo. And that's about, exactly. It's really about following things to the T. And, my house is very set up in a certain way that I like it. If somebody is like, something is out of whack, I can notice it in a second, kind of thing. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten much more laxed about that because, this idea of perfection is unattainable anyway. It doesn't mean you don't do your best. Of course you try to do your best, but it's like, you overcompensate. You try to make this the most best thing, but you can't. There's no such thing as perfection. Even a flower will try to do what it can do, in the universe's code, but it's still never going to be perfect,
Question: would you, when you would go to studio or you'd go to set, would you take home cooking with you and share a tin of bickies or biscotti with your other actors? Look, I made this ravioli. Do you want to have some?
Yeah, no, because
of course you can't eat before a scene, can you?
No, you don't really want to, whether you're topping or bottom, and you don't want to, because you just want to feel good. Because food, it sates you. It's just it makes you, I just want to sit on the couch. And you don't want that during your, a scene. So, but it was never the time or the place for it. You're always kind of rushing around doing this and that, and you don't know all the people all the time that you're working with. So that was the thing. It was like going into a regular office. Like when I was working as a fashion designer, for Joan Vass, in New York, there's always fruit vendors outside. And I would usually pick up a cantaloupe or a papaya or something, and I would cut it there and offer it to everybody around, and enjoy. It's it's about that interaction with food. I may not have had time to bake, and the reason why I don't bake off very often unless I'm having parties is because I would sit there and eat the rest of it.
No self-control.
Not good for the waistline. It's
So is food sacred to you?
It really is. I mean, of course it nourishes us, but it's more than that for me. And I'm going to put this simply say it is that food that is made with love, like the grandmother, your mother cooks it or somebody, as opposed to food I'm not going to take a high-end restaurant because usually those people are really dedicated with their working group, but say a Denny's or something. those people don't care. They're just there to do the job and, make an egg or scramble, whatever they're doing. And the difference between that is the energy going into it. And there's a very simple experiment that a scientist did in Japan. And there's, again, many, many different people that have recreated this. He basically took two beakers of water, just tap water. He labeled one, good energy and then bad energy. So what he was doing, he's just told the water, I love you, you're fantastic, you're beautiful, blah, 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 and put that in the freezer. And then he took the other one, I hate you, you're ugly, blah, 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 and put that in the freezer. The one that he was talking to beautifully, beautiful crystalline structures. The other one, erratic. And so that was just the energy that he was putting into that, nothing else. So when somebody is cooking for you, when a loved one's cooking for you, that energy is going into that food. So you see what I mean? And that's, again, with all the spirituality too, that's also part of it, because everything's just energy.
Growing up, who were the loved ones around you? Who formed your community?
It was my aunt, who actually lives here in LA, Rika, who I absolutely love. She's 10 years older than me. She was very young when I was, of course, born. And, oh God, who else, really? I'm trying to think of, she is one of the biggest ones for me. Because I spent a lot of time by myself. I was a child that if it was the summer, that would get my bike and go look for a creek, and I'd be playing in the creek looking for tadpoles and crawfish, I didn't have too many friends growing up, so friends were not that much. My mom was, of course, very influential. So was my grandmom, who was up the street. So I saw her every day. She was the one that basically taught my mom how to cook. I would say those people was mostly the women. And my grandfather, when he was out in the garden, when we were working on the soil, and that was a lot of work, it's not easy tilling the soil and then, the weeds and everything else, but it's beautiful to see, you plant these seeds and you start seeing them come up in the ground. And, when you're ready to pick a tomato and you're just there in the garden eating it. And it's just so wonderful and beautiful. So all of those people were very important to me. Mom, of course, was always very nurturing. I remember all the adults coming over because, again, everybody was, visiting. You'd have many adults coming all over the place. And I would be underneath the kitchen table. It was mostly the women having coffee and chit-chatting and talking and, eating maybe some cookies or something, and sitting under the table and listening to them. My father thankfully wasn't a very big sports fan. He was more of a Star Trek kind of person, and we would watch that as well. But I remember my
Dad
grandfather.
was around.
Yeah, Dad was around. Absolutely. He was, growing up in the whole thing, I didn't really quite appreciate when I was younger what he did. But now getting, having been older and whatnot, understanding him, I still talk to him today, these days as well. But there was a time when I didn't talk to him. And, my parents divorced, of course, that didn't go well. They should have divorced a long time ago. They stuck it out for 13 years. And, I didn't appreciate really what he was or who he was at the time. And now I have a very different viewpoint on that,
Is that because of your relationship with masculinity at the time, do you think?
It's part of that. It was part of, my mom was very unhappy in the relationship too. And of course, being more connected to my mom, because my father, I would see every once in a while, he would take us out to the parks once in a while. We would build rockets, set them off and have them go up in the air. So there was always these creative things we were doing, but it wasn't very often because he was working a hell of a lot, man. He was working, to support all of us. And he didn't want to hand out from my grandfather. And even when he was opening his own place, again, it was even more work, it just is, when you have your own business. So, and I didn't realize it or appreciate it as much. When you get older, you realize, because now you're out in the world yourself, you're having to make your own bread, having to make, do your own thing. And you start to realize the sacrifices that he also made during that time. So.
You would have noticed, I'm kind of doing a chronological date check here. You would have noticed the world outside your family in the 70s, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And outside your friendship group. I mean, at that time, the world was starting to become a volatile place.
Mm-hmm.
World peace is something you desire. I mean, I've read that it's very much part of who you are. What
Yeah.
was happening around those formative years for you to notice?
Well, I mean, we always had that threat of nuclear war. That was the biggest thing, right? We had the Cold War. So that was always an issue. And then during that time too, we also started having about the planet, what we were doing to it, the toxicities, the things that we were doing to the planet that were not recoverable, the poisons we were injecting, all that kind of stuff. And that was becoming more known.
So you're like a 13, 14. I'm sorry to jump in. You're a 13, 14-year-old kid at this time, aren't you? You're quite...
Well, I was born in 1967
Yeah.
of August. So I think 1980, I was 12, maybe 12, 13, something around that. So yeah, I spent my, high school years. But the thing is, though, I saw things very differently. And it's funny now looking back, is like, talking about democracy, other things like that, that I knew things that most children my age probably wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I was one of the people that wanted to try to read the whole entire encyclopedia. I never quite managed it, but I was like kind of determined at one time. And now I understand, because of where I'm at spiritually and everything that's been exposed to me and who I am. I now look back and say, oh, now I understand, because I've always been a lone wolf or a black sheep, if you want to call it. And, and even to this day, I'm still a lone wolf. I just have a very big wolf pack now, meaning my spirit guides. I have a big wolf pack now. And I have some very good friends. The friends, I don't call friends lightly. They're people that I rely on, people that that I can, that will have my back if needed. I know a lot of people. A lot of people know me. I mean, that's out there. I mean, I go out and I socialize with a lot of people, but I couldn't call a lot of these people friends. They're acquaintances. And I've always been that way. Like, I'm not a person that has any issue going out to dinner by himself, going out to a bar to himself, I have traveled the world by myself. I have no problem with that.
Let's move on to your second memory, which is another dinner. Dinner at a restaurant called Linen, where you were served live baby eels in heirlooms gazpacho. First of all, tell us about the restaurant, and then let's talk about the dish.
It was
I tried to find this restaurant. I can't.
It's gone. It's gone. It closed up soon after we left Tucson, so it didn't hang around very long, unfortunately. It was in Tucson, Arizona. We were in Tucson for about 14 months, right after 9/11, because we were in New York. That kind of changed things. But so we were at this restaurant. We of course we were dining a lot in New York. We have really beautiful restaurants, and so this new restaurant had pretty much opened up fairly recently, called Linen, and it was a chef from New York, and we decided to go. And it was a small restaurant. It wasn't really big, like tablecloths, the whole thing. And I think we mentioned to the waiter that we were coming from New York, and we knew the chef was from New York, and start a little conversation that way. The waiter brings out this gazpacho soup, heirloom tomato soup, big ass bowl, like huge bowl, and thank God it was. And in the bowl were these tiny little eels trying to swim up the bowl. And
so they were live.
They were live, honey. They were live. They were alive. It was gazpacho, so served cold. They were live. And my partner and I just looked at each other and just shrugged and just ate it. And they were just sort of like al dente pasta.
Can you? Oh, yeah. That's how you tell Nana. Just let's do the thing going down your throat, the eel going down your the sensor. Do you chew it? Like, what do you do?
Well, I did bite some of them, because again, that's how I knew it was like this al dente kind of feel to it.
Did you hear it cry or something?
No, they're really small. They're about maybe 2 inches long, maybe.
Send it back.
But they're really thin. Like they're almost like a little spaghetti.
Yeah,
but they're alive.
Al dente.
And we just did it. I was just like, okay. We're adventurous that way. I'm like, okay. And the funny thing is, if you would have put like bugs in front of me, I would be like, no, I can't do this. I can't do it. Like, no. But the funny thing is, if it's anything from the sea or around that, I'm fine. Like, I've tried sea slugs. I've tried, I will be very adventurous, but when you start giving me insects, I'm like, no,
Yeah, no,
I can't.
keep them out.
It's just something I can't.
What you said that both you and your partner, whose name is Michael, was partner. You're both foodies. I'm really fascinated with the concept of a foodie. What is a foodie to you? Let's just break this down a bit. So we broke down, Night of the Dark Soul. We broke down the light worker. Now let's break down the foodie.
The foodie
From the West Coast of America.
Yeah, I think, to be a foodie, you need to be up to explore different cuisines, to really get to understand about food. And I don't mean how it's of course prepared, because Michael at the time, now this is an ex of many years ago. This is the one of 13 years. Not the one with the dark soul. So we'll just make sure we're clear on that. Well, yeah, because people are like, is that? And knowing how it's prepared. So Michael was a really good cook too, like a really good cook. And he pretty much took over the cooking when we were together, even though I knew how to, and I would do more of the baking, but he loved it. That's what he did. I took care of the house. He did that. And it's great. So we knew how food was prepared. We know how it interacts. Other ingredients react with each other. And especially with me growing up with being Italian and watching my parents cook, I was good. They would pull up a high chair, and I would be there watching my grandparents cook. Like, that's how young. So that is part of it. It's like knowing how food is prepared, how it interacts with other spices, how the taste complexity of things, how they're going to interact with each other, where the food is coming from, which I think is really important. I think you need to know where your food is coming from. Like, so many people look now and they buy chops or something, and they think that's how it just comes. They're even completely forgetting there's an animal associated with it. There's this sort of disconnect. And so it's understanding about different cheeses, about different wines, and really exploring and getting a little bit more in depth about those things. And then going and trying the new foods, going to different restaurants. And restaurants don't have to be expensive to be good. They just need to, try different cuisines, try Korean, try Vietnamese, try French, to explore all these different things and see which one offers what they offer. And then you can also take that when you start learning about these different foods and the spices and everything else, you at home now can start experimenting with them as well. Start playing around with the spices, start, incorporating different things. I mean, that's how, the changes, like the nouveau cuisines were kind of started, like taking a little bit of everything from here and there and there. The American cuisines, which again, were kind of the same thing, coming from the farm to the table, but again, still incorporating many different kinds of aspects of other cuisines. There are certain spices they were starting to add and things like that. So they were being more inventive with their food. And now we have things that, they're going more in the scientific level, that all the very special,
molecular.
Yeah, the molecular stuff and that too. And that's a whole nother thing. I mean, that goes like way up there. I think a lot of people would not be able to do that at home per se, but, it'd be interesting, wonderful to experience, but just a really good, give me a good, risotto, a mushroom risotto, something like that to me is like home,
It's home.
like, it's home. It's home. Like a good mac and cheese would be like a seriously good homemade mac and cheese.
How do you make your seriously good?
Oh, I use bechamel. I gotta have a bechamel. I use 3 different cheeses. But before I even start it, I take a whole onion, chop it up real, mushing it basically, and I cook that. And then I start everything else. So there's this whole entire onion, and it's brings up the level of everything. Incredible. And then take that, of course,
Can
after
you chop
the
up an
bechamel
onion
and the
again,
cheeses.
Adam?
I don't want to get your audience too excited now, so they're maybe just the ones.
This is an episode for YouTube. I don't know what to watch, your face or your hands. It's just so rich and wonderful. I wasn't expecting this, but there you go.
So, after you do that though, this is really funny. With all the 3 different cheeses.
Back to the mac and cheese.
Actually, I don't use American cheese. I use three other ones. I have them listed, but you want to get they're, a little bit more on the softer sides of these cheeses. And, you can experiment with doing different things. I like the different variety of cheeses because I like the different flavors interacting. So then take that and put all that in the oven to bake it, little breadcrumbs to get it crispy on the uptop. And It's really good. I mean, the thing is, when I have dinner parties and that, when I know when they're asking for seconds, you did a good job. Like, they're always like, too, I see the plates are empty and they're like, is there any more? Like,
Are you sure you're not the son of Marcel Marceau? You are a brilliant mime artist. Everyone's in the room. There's 6 people here right now. Speaking of eels, you've had a long and successful career as a producer and actor in the adult film industry. What was the allure? Now,
Okay.
in my head, being a pornographic actor is exposing yours, is physically and emotionally. I want to know what the allure is.
Oh, well, the funny thing is, when I was living in New York and I was doing my design work and whatnot, I was also bartending because as a young designer of any kind, you don't make much money. So you have to figure out, your side hustle. So I was bartending and I had recruiters from the porn industry ask me, hey, do you want to be in a film? I'm like, no, because I was going to be a famous designer. Duh. Like, and at the time too, to do that was not good. It's not like where we have now, like everybody and their mother's trying to do OnlyFans and Just for Fans. It's like, who cares? But at the time, there's a stigma, like the whole thing as well. So I just threw it off and said, whatever. So when we were in San Francisco, again with Michael, living with Michael, I was bartending and I was also a fine artist. I was represented at a gallery in San Francisco. And of course, that wasn't making a lot of money unless you're selling your work for $100,000. And it was fine. I mean, we were doing well. Then the economy took a turn. I think it was around 2008. And the jobs that I already held were kind of like, people were being laid off of them. And I hadn't been in those jobs in a while, so it was kind of stupid to go back in them. The bar that I was working at it did some really stupid things, and we had lost some customers. And I'm thinking, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So I figured, and it wasn't the porn, it was the escorting first, selling my time. And to read nursery rhymes, of course. And
what was your favorite? Jack and Jill?
Yeah, Jack and Jill. Jack and Jack.
Jack and Jack? Or Jack and Jill? Or Jack.
Oh, man.
So anyway, yes,
that's kind
escorting.
of, I went into it and I thought to myself, okay, I did have, clients. And I thought, okay, this is pretty good. My partner at the time was not particularly keen on it, but he was like, okay, we need money, whatever. And then I decided, okay, but if I'm going to do this, I need more exposure, and I thought, okay, the porn. So I had sent Titan, which was a big studio at the time in San Francisco, my pictures and whatnot, and said, hey, I'm here and I'd love to work with you, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And just a chance, the roll of the dice, somebody did not get on a plane that was supposed to shoot with them. And they needed somebody right away. And I was not that far away. I was living in Pacifica. San Francisco was like, 20-minute drive, if that. And they said, can you be here, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, okay. And that was my first ever. And it was really basically to, help my escorting and whatnot. It's this whole set. Everyone else is dressed, lots of lights. You're not only just doing this, the sex scene, but now you're also have to be doing the stills for the box covers. So you have to make it look sexy and, be hard and everything else. And it's not exactly the sexiest environment.
Did you feel like you were in control?
Not then, but I have to say, because doing this actually was very cathartic for me, because I wasn't worried about how my body looked or how I felt about it. I let a lot of things drop regarding sex, regarding how I felt, about nudity, things like that. And it just kind of melted away. So for me, it was cathartic doing all of it, because once you're having sex in front of the camera, everybody's seen everything. So it didn't bother me. They liked me, obviously. They kept using me. I started working for other studios. I mean, I was never the biggest, the best looking guy, but I just...
I think there'd be a few who would...
Made it work. I guess I just made it work. So that was it. And my, tenacity, I guess, is basically what it was. And I just started doing it all over the place, and people gravitated to it. And I'm just always thankful that they enjoyed what I was doing. But I did think of this as a business. I didn't think of it like an ego trip or whatever. It was a business to me.
Did
And
you
that's how I handled
harden?
it.
Did you harden in any way? Was just for self-preservation and protection? Did you find yourself, because you're a very soft, generous human, did you
Thank
find
you.
that too, in order to protect yourself from that outside, that you needed to steel up, and there were bits that people were not going to get into?
Yeah.
I'm not talking physically.
No, I know you're talking about mentally, and that it's very interesting that you say that, because especially when I was escorting a lot, I was traveling all over the world with it and still doing the porn for studios. I didn't realize, because, okay, first of all, when I say paying for my time, that's exactly what it is. Some people just want it to be held, like or talk to. You realize how important touch is and how important intimacy is when you do this job. And this job is not for everybody. Let me tell you that right now. Because most of these people are just average people. They're just average people. And so when I started going to the spirituality, I started meditating one day, and I was listening to the crystal singing bowls, and it got to my third eye section, because each bowl represents a different vibration. And I was literally kind of like vibrating, like something was wrong. It's like you blocked your third eye. And what happened is I shut my third eye down when I was doing with all these people, because it was protecting myself. And I didn't know that at the time. And it was very interesting. So I put an amethyst on it, doing it, and it opened it up again. So, and for anybody who's having nonchalant sex, make sure that you clean your energy afterwards, because you will take on certain things in there.
So let's break that down a bit, because a lot of people are having nonchalant sex. This is random sex that we're talking about.
Yeah,
in
a
all
lot of it.
So what are you suggesting they do?
Well, you need to clear your energy. I mean, I always want. I'm certainly not a prude, and everybody enjoying themselves or whatnot. I'm not a big fan of like big orgies and scenes and that, because I like to know the people I'm with, of course.
But do you have a say when you're working for a studio?
And well, that's you know what kind of obviously they're going to do an orgy scene. They're going to do 2 or 3 people. You at least know that, but you don't usually know who you're going to be working with. Or if you do see a picture of them, say, okay, he looks good, but you don't know how his energy is going to be, So that's also another thing. He could look really, buff and that, but a purse falls out of his mouth. So, I mean, and that happens quite a bit. So there you go. This image of like this masculine man just went down the drain. It happens. So, but when you're doing this, it's actually like even saging your house once in a while is important to get that energy out. You can use certain crystals and whatnot, because you will start taking on some of their energy, because when you have sex, it's residue energy you're taking on, and besides other things, obviously, but we're talking about energetically here. So you want to clear that out. You want to clear it out.
Growing up Catholic, was sexuality spoken about?
Okay, I'm going to tell you a funny story, and this is it. Symptom sexuality. So, at a very early age, I was masturbating, basically rubbing myself on my bed. And I don't even know how this started. Remember, we didn't have an internet. We didn't have any of that. It was just me. Somehow I figured that felt good. I don't know.
How old were you?
I must have been like 6. Yeah, I mean, really early, very young, honey. I bloomed very, very young. I'm 6 and I'm there. I mean, it felt good. You get the sensation, but, nothing was happening down there yet, as far as like, And so one day I'm doing it. I think it was like the afternoon or whatever. My brother, we shared a room, but he was not there, thankfully. And white stuff came out on the sheets, and I'm going, and I'm like, oh shit. Like I'm thinking something's wrong, because I've been doing this for a while with nothing of that sort. Right. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm like, am I dying? What's going on? But like, and I, the thing too is like, you're doing something, but people are not going to approve of it because somehow it feels bad. That's kind of how I feel. But I'm thinking I have to tell somebody.
It was so bad.
Right. I have to tell somebody, because what if I'm dying? What if something seriously wrong with me? Right. And so I remember going to my father. Now, my father, I've got the genes of the small genes. My father's over 6 foot tall. And of course, at that time, I'd been so shorter. So I'm like going to my father and I'm like gathering the muster up this energy to tell him I was kind of rubbing my pee and this stuff came out and he's like seriously, he's like, so what color was it? I was like, it was white. He's like, you're fine. That was it. That was the start of my sexual education. That was it. That was it. And then, during my teenage years where they were starting to teach sex education in class, and then he finally says to me, so, maybe it's time to have that talk. I said, Dad, you're a little late. I said, I've already got that, but thanks anyway. But like, that was my sexual education. You're fine. You're fine.
My introduction to puberty was I was playing with my female cousin, and there we were playing jacks, like beads. We were doing it with actually bone knuckles, because we'd lost all our jacks.
Oh God, yeah.
Anyway, she jumped up and ran straight to her mother. And then I heard a slap on the face, and she's like, Mom, what was that for? And then I heard a second slap. And then she came back in later. I said, what happened? She said, my mother slapped me. And then it was later to discover that is a tradition in Greek families, where when a daughter has her first period, she gets slapped in the face for the color to return. Well, my cousin wasn't having any of that, so she slapped the mother back. So it's a very different place now, isn't it? Sexual education.
Wow. I never heard of that. Wow. Okay. I don't think my family ever did that. I guess it was just a Greek thing. Wow.
Slap there for a slap back.
Wow.
Before we move on
yeah. Okay. Sorry. Let me take a second there. Okay.
Carla, it was all about appearances. So before we move on to your final food memory, can we refer to you now as the artist formerly known as Adam Russo?
Yes. Yeah, I guess you can. I mean, Adam Russo still existing. I go by Adam Keith these days, but Adam Russo's still alive and well, I guess. He is.
Are you going to part ways one day, do you think?
Yes. Hopefully very soon. Hopefully. It's not to say, I mean, it's been a good run on that, but I just and don't get me wrong, I love having sex. I mean, that's not the issue. It's just I'm just a little tired of a camera and me having the sex.
Yeah.
So,
your third food memory, this is a beautiful one, a dinner at Lake Como where the food was served family style.
Yes. I was there with my boyfriend. This is, I think I was 20 years old at the time, and we went with his friend, who was German. We were living in Miami at the time, so it was Miami and we were visiting 7 different countries at the time. So Italy was one of them, in Lake Como. And I don't know who learned about the restaurant. We went. I think it was actually through a friend of the German guy that we knew. I can't think of his name right now. It was my ex's friend, not really mine. And we went there, and it was very much a house just set up, and it was up on the hill, and we could see the lake. And of course it was getting dark, so you saw all the lights, flickering. And I remember sitting down, very family style. There was a lot of other people. Nobody had any places or anything like that. You just kind of sat where you were. And the food just kept coming out, and it was dish after dish, seafoods and then pastas, and it was all served family size. You would, pick what you wanted, and everything was so delicious, and just the atmosphere, because you were looking over the lake, and it was just a really magical time. It was just beautiful. So I know that it was probably somebody's house at one time, because it wasn't designed like a restaurant. You knew it was somebody's home, or at least was somebody's home. And
because
then the big patio. Yeah, it was very small. You just knew this was a house. And it was just extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary.
Was this the first time you'd experienced family style shared meals outside your home?
No, there were some other things back in the States, but this was a little different. Because we did do some family stuff in restaurants when we go out, but this was just different. It was something I don't know about, because I think you've also, one of the things too, is that when we took the family out as a kid, it was all of us at one table. So there wasn't anybody else that we didn't know at the table. You know what I mean? So that
Yeah.
was also a mix up with it. And then just the experience of like eating outside with all these different people, enjoying this incredible food that was just, there was no menu. It was just coming out. It was coming out. And that was the magical part of it. It was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. So.
Do you think there was any connection or any resonance with your Italian heritage, do you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it was, all the, the food, there were some dishes I didn't know, again, because, certain regions of Italy, are more keen to make certain dishes. And so I was eating some things that I didn't know about, like some of the seafood dishes. Because like my grandparents would do the seafood, especially for Christmas Eve, because that's all about the seven fishes. And so we would have certain things that they would prepare. But you're like explaining other things from a different region, so cooked differently. Maybe the seasonings are slightly different. The sauces are different. And the sauces can be different from region to region, as you know. Like, further north, they tend to do white sauces. Further south, more tomato-based sauces. So it just depends on, local eyes too. And of course, everybody has their own particular pastas, So it was part of that. But it was part of exploring that Italian heritage, absolutely, because it was food that was familiar, but yet slightly different. Just a little
And
bit
being
of,
so young, you would have been a sponge absorbing all this new sensation, all five senses.
Yeah. And this is what about being a foodie is like going out and exploring these different things,
I'm curious about, Alan was 25 years older than you. I'm
Yes,
curious about.
he was older, yes.
Yeah, I'm curious about intergenerational relationships. There's a bit of stigma around them, isn't there, when you sometimes see an older man,
Yeah.
and
There was
I'm
more. Are you're
Yeah.
going to be what? Are you in a
well,
younger,
now I've moved
older?
into, I'm much, much younger than you, but I've moved into daddy status, and it's really weird for me because I have two young boys at home who call me daddy. So it doesn't, but there
Yeah,
is
I could see.
something about older man, younger man, isn't there? That sort of guiding.
Yeah, it is. And I think that was also one of the things too, because he was very much a mentor at that age, because I did a lot of things with him I would not have been able to do at that age. Like obviously travel to Europe and visit 7 countries, that kind of thing. We lived in Bucks County, which was in Pennsylvania. He had a restaurant there as well. So again, more foodie things.
Yeah.
And then he had an apartment up in New York. So again, we'd eat out a lot. So I was also learning a lot of other different food types, besides Italian, Chinese and like whatever we're eating, and high end stuff too. So it wasn't like, because we'd really go out and you would take me to some really beautiful places that I wouldn't have been able to do at my age at that time. And at the time, there was more stigma around it. There really was. I mean, nowadays, because like, daddy is like, hey, daddy, everyone's like, daddy, daddy, you look on porn, it's daddy, daddy, daddy. So nobody blinks an eye these days. But at the time, yeah, there was, it was like sugar baby, sugar daddy kind of, because that's what it looked like. And that's what most people would think. You didn't really get that when you had like, say, an older man with a younger one, because that's kind of expected with straight couples. Like nobody really blinks an eye for it, but the gay culture was really different in that sense, at least at that time. So I'm actually kind of good that we've gone beyond that. And, this whole idea of daddy is more acceptable and wanted, actually. And it's funny that you, of course, have children and be called daddy. I could see where that'd be a little like confusing thing.
Yeah.
Although I have to tell you, my father calls us dad and always did for a very long time. And still to this day, he'll call me like, hey, dad, what's up? I'm like, oh, I don't know why. Nobody else in the family did it but him. It was his thing. So,
I must admit, when I do get called daddy, I say, look, I'm not really interested, but if you have any photos of your dad I could see, it just opens up a whole can of worms. Brilliant. Let's talk about your spiritual warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Your White Witch tarot card reading, this new phase that you moved into. I see it as you tapping into your intuition. I see it as the women, now that we've spoken, I see it for all the conversations that you've heard and been part of under the table. You've tapped into, like, we could be talking centuries of intuition here now. And you've become this vessel of reading it, and you're using it cards. Why is light work so important for you now?
Why is it important? Because it's actually what I'm here to do.
And how do you know that?
Because I've been told, because of all the things that I went through to get here. You know, going through this whole spiritual thing, it was like, you know, when you see those shows about spy movies and the agent suddenly wakes up and realizes who they are. It was kind of like that.
You weren't Superman.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And you realize, oh, fuck, okay, that's who I am. That's why I'm here. And then you start looking back on your life, realizing, oh, yeah, this kind of makes sense and everything else, and why you had to go through certain things and whatnot. Because to be a light worker, you also need to have empathy for your other people, and you also need to know how to help them heal. Because you've healed yourself, you also need to be able to guide them to heal. So you have to go through, like, you know, trial by fire to get where you are. So it is really important. I'm here to do a mission, and it is to help raise the vibration of the collective. Yeah. So. Which is, and that could be through a variety of different means. It doesn't have to be necessarily the tarot. We were working on a reality show regarding spirituality and help people heal. So there are different means and different ways to help people raise their vibration. Like I was saying, through nursing, through doctors, all those things will help people. Through yoga, through inventing something new in science that will really benefit people.
Nurses are light workers. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you not all of them, but like some of them can be. But there's, again, that energy of helping to heal, to help raise the vibration of people, and that can be done in many different ways. So, you know, everyone's got their own particular path to follow.
What do you say to the doubters who are listening to this and thinking, oh, energy, the universe, light, just got to, get up? I mean, I would think that you would say they've just got to work through their blockage.
I'm not, first of all, I'm not going to judge anybody. Everyone's on their own path. And when I do talk to people, and especially I've also released what I call the brown chair chats, where the universe has shown me different things, about the universe, about healing, whatever it may be, and then relating that to the collective. I'm not here to convince you of anything. It is not my job to do so. I'm not like a religion trying to sell you something. I would love to see you standing in your own energy, your own power, but you don't have to, I'm not trying to convince you of this. This is not my job to do so. So I would just say, okay, that's fine. Like, you don't believe it, don't believe it. There's nothing, I'm not going to resent it, or like, I'm not trying to convince you about it. That's fine. You're on your own path of whatever that is for you. Great. And that's, I think, the big difference between someone like me following spirituality and, say, a religion that is trying to, knock it in your head that if you don't believe this, you're wrong, which is very funny because there's so many religions and they all think they have the right key to talk to the universe, and which is completely arrogant to begin with. But, hey, that be it, that fine, then follow that path if you wish. But just what I'm thinking is, listen, I'm through people, if you want to worship the tree outside my yard, go and do it. Have a great time with it. Enjoy it. Just don't involve me in it. That's all. Leave people to their own decisions and what that. Don't try to hammer it into somebody. Well, it's us. You got to follow us. You're going to follow this. No. I think everyone needs to make their own educated decision about that and not be hammered over the head with it.
The cards are, back to the cards, I mean, they're open to interpretation. Mm-hmm. Another tarot card reader might read them in a different way to the way you interpret what comes up in the reverse, in the front. What of you do you take to your readings?
Well, first of all, addressing, people reading different cards differently. I've had many times, when I'm shuffling, sometimes the cards will flip out, and people have said, why do you take the cards that flip out? Because a lot of readers will do that. And I'm like, no, because the universe is giving me a hint, but it's not the card they want on the table. So again, every reader will read differently. Okay. So what I'm bringing to that is my own particular energy. It's funny because I have a lot of people love the sound of my voice. Now, my voice is mine. I just hear it as I hear it. Not there. I understand because of the vibration that it resonates with, that it is also part of what I'm here to do. It's another tool, to help people because, vibration, again, energy is important. And I'm here, with the readings for, the ones I do right now are for a specific part of the collective. Whether you resonate with that or not, you may or may not, but I'm going to be very honest about it too. So I don't try to butter it up. I don't try to pretty it up. I'm like very matter of fact about it. And I call the Empress in reverse a mud maggot, I'm just like, this is this person, I will be very direct in those kind of ways. Now, when I'm doing private readings, I'm still very much in that same energy, but all of those, the kings or queens, whatever comes up, I'm getting names for them. I'm like, okay, this is a friend. It blah, blah, blah. I might, say this is kind of the characteristic. Tell me who you're thinking of. Oh, is it Bob? No, it's not Bob. Is it John? It's John. Okay. So now we have an actual person we can refer to.
And so what happens? Your body just physically has a reaction?
Yeah. It's a vibration that hits me. And sometimes Spirit communicates to me too. So does the earth. I call it Mother Earth. She's very funny. She's like a little girl. But my guides will speak in vibrations or sometimes downloads. Sometimes occasionally I hear them. They're not like, you're speaking to you. A lot of times it'll be images or certain thoughts that'll come in. But when I'm doing the readings and when I ask a question and I'm like, when they say, okay, is it Bob? I'm like, no, I'm not getting any vibration. Is it John? Yes, I'm getting the vibration. Okay, that's the person we're talking about now. So that we know. And that didn't happen overnight. That was a progression from when I started reading to moving into that, because I was also having dismantle a lot of myself, my ego, all those things, and raising my own vibration to receive these new gifts that were coming in. So it's not like suddenly, boom, you're like that. For me, it was a progression. And I think for most of us, it is,
Do you think this is the reason that the porn work is fading away for you?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was good. The porn work was good. I mean, how many other occupations can you have that people really enjoy themselves when you're doing your work?
But it's a different energy frequency, and it requires something.
Yeah.
It's kind of, if you're looking at the chakras, it's more of a base kind of red space, isn't it?
Definitely base, yes.
Whereas this stuff is a lot higher
All
in
the way
the
up
blues,
here.
the greens, where your hands have been the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like right here. And that's kind of what it is. And so that's why, it's shifting over into this higher vibration. And I'm fine with it. I'm ready for it, and it's been quite the path to follow. And I mean, I could talk for hours about the things that I've experienced, everything else. It's
That's
some
podcast.
of it's crazy. Some of it's just like, it seems very out there. But once you start experiencing all these things on a regular basis, you can't deny it. And then, you have people coming back to you, confirming what you already, like what you read in their cards or things that they're coming up, and you have in the actual reality of things, confirming what you've been saying. And time's a little hard because you can say, I try to work by season, but the universe has its own time slot. It doesn't, and then of course we're dealing with people with free will, so they can change that. That's, you're working with a lot of different things here that could change. That's why I like trying to say, figure out who's going to win an election. Everyone's free will is changing like a lot here, like until like maybe the last couple of days where you can figure like, okay, this person's going to win or that person's going to win. Cause you just too many people changing in their mind, new things come up. It's like constant flow,
Your social cause is a very big one. It's the removal of toxic ingredients from our food.
Yeah.
And it's a big concern for you because the way we process modern day food, the world over is very, very different from country to region.
Yeah.
Why does it make you so, what's the word I'm looking for? Anxious, tense?
Because it's a lot of poisons that don't need to be there. A lot of hormone disruptors, cancer causing agents. I mean, and that's why a lot of the Europeans have banned a lot of the stuff that we still use here in America. It's like, it doesn't make sense, only because to make the food cheaper. And we got to stick to more natural foods, more real foods. I mean, we have so many people with, a good example. Why is gluten such an issue when we've been eating bread for thousands of years? It's not the bread itself. It's everything we're doing to it, spraying it with chemicals, the way we process it, the other stuff that we're adding to it. A perfect example, my aunt, who I love dearly, she can't eat the bread here. She cannot eat bread here in the States. She goes to Europe. She's eating bread. She's eating cheese. She's and never a problem, because they don't allow those things in the making of their food. So, there's just too many toxins, like the red dyes, red dye 3. It's like, there's all of this stuff is not needed, just because your kid's like more colorful Fruit Loops. Doesn't make sense. Well, would you like that with a side of cancer? It doesn't make sense. And so to me, food is very sacred. And the same thing with agriculture. It's very interesting in the Netherlands, which is like one of the best food producers. They don't use a lot of, chemicals and that. They're very good at producing. In fact, they ship a lot of their food out for a very small country. And then you have the government trying to shut them down, trying to shut the farmers down. And the farmers revolted. And thank God they won, because what are you doing? Everyone's like, well, the population. Yeah, the population is growing, but it's also not as much as we thought, because remember, a lot of people are not having kids as much now too. And that's happening in Japan. It's happening here. It's happening. I mean, Italy's like one of the oldest countries, like not a lot of new births in certain areas. So the population is also going down in certain aspects too. And I'm going to say, on a spiritual level, we needed a large population because we needed the people to hold the light, to hold the energy. Again, when we were talking about prayer, just giving thanks for the food, the energy of that alone can change the food. Like, say if you went to McDonald's and you said, universe, thank you for giving me this food, it will change the energy of that food. It'll be much healthier to eat it, even though you don't want to eat that all the time. It will be healthier. Again, it's about that energy. The simple experiment that Japanese scientist did, which can be redone. It's something that can be redone over and over again. And that's important, because we need to raise those vibrations,
We have an MFK Fisher serve it forth tradition here. MFK Fisher was an American woman, where our previous guest presents you with a dish. Karima Kazim of Sunday Kitchens has made you warab enab, which are these tiny little finger-shaped vine leaves stuffed with rice, mint, lemon, and spices. You can also have meats with them, but she wants to serve you particularly, vegetarian versions of them.
Yeah.
Karima says, if I'm making them for you, you know it's love. Which is just, if you know Karima, you know what she's talking about here. I mean, she's this fantastic Lebanese woman who talks with, you might talk with hands, she talks with big eyes. Well, how do you feel about this dish?
I think that's lovely. I mean, anything made with love is important. It's, taking the time and the effort, and I know what she's talking about, because again, when I'm cooking, not particularly for myself, because I mean, it's, yes, I love myself, but when you're cooking for somebody else, like someone you love, or you're having friends over, it's that extra energy that goes into it, that extra, like, you want, it's got to be special for them. Like making the table, everything else. It's not like, trying to show off. It's because I'm showing you how much I love you. I want you to have the best time and be in this beautiful energy, enjoying this beautiful food, this beautiful drink, whatever it may be that you're serving. And that to me is so important, because it's, again, this beautiful energy that's exuding.
Now, to finish, with your spiritual warrior armor on, what are you seeing ahead for the world?
Well, this decade, 2020 to 2030, is really about this huge change that we're going through, because now we're in the Aquarian age, and these epochs can last, they're about 2,000 years old, and we're coming out of the Piscean age, which was a top-down, dark, things veiled, secrecy, the whole bit, lies. And now we're going into, it is about the individual, but it's also about the collective. And that's the interesting thing about it, queries. So again, that's why the internet was invented very close to it. Like it's, these epochs are like, oh, this was the day that was, boom. So we are literally in it now. And I'm seeing the changes happen. And it's funny because everything's being exposed that was wrong. You just turn on the news, like everything is coming to the surface. And this is the year, especially 2025, where people are realizing there is karma. There is consequences for your actions. And so we're also seeing a lot of people that were, waking up and trying to do the right thing, experiencing more dharma, new relationships, new business things going on. And I'm seeing it more and more. So there's hope here, very strong, that we're moving in the right direction. Don't get me wrong. It's never going to be utopia. Humans are not ready for utopia. We're still at a very low vibration, but it's going to be better.
Adam, from our very first interaction, you've been ever so gracious and gorgeous and chivalrous. And I look forward to, I stay online because I want to book my own tarot reading with you after we finish. Love, light and joy, my friend. Thank you for being on 3 Food Memories.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
That's it for this episode of 3 Food Memories.